Okay. Thanks everyone for joining us this afternoon. Certainly appreciate it. My name is Chris Hugman. I am the Vice President of Service Innovation and here with Scott Bradford, Design Associate for Knight Security Systems. And as Alyssa mentioned and was noted on our invite to this webinar, we want to address the topic around the Senate Bill 507 that is now, of course, encoded in law, and maybe provide some options for some of the school districts around Texas to with a couple of options, and maybe try to simplify it. There's a lot of questions and confusion. We have done quite a number of meetings with school districts, and even been contacted by parents of school districts regarding what this bill means, how the schools should respond, and that sort of thing. So today's we're going to present some information, but mainly it's a start of a conversation, and hopefully there's some ideas here that are helpful to you, and we can certainly continue the conversation offline if you see something that piques your interest. So let me get started, and I think our webinar today is about 30 minutes, and then we'll have some time at the end for some questions and be able to respond to questions if you have them. So we'll get going here. Just a quick agenda is, of course, I'm going to do a brief introduction to Knight Security Systems, just so you know, if you're not familiar with Knight, who we are and our background. A brief overview of the 507 requirements as we understand them, and I'm sure several of you have spent time reviewing them as well. We're going to offer you 3 potential options that we've heard and we've discussed with folks, and then we're going to zero in on one that we think represents maybe the easiest way to go, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's the best way to go for any particular school district. It really depends on your environment and your situation. And then finally, from a maintenance standpoint, any new technical system, you need to consider the long-term support costs, particularly in this regard when compliance is such an important matter with regard to the bill and the law. So, so first, a little bit on Knight Security. Knight Security has been around since 1983. We offer services, security system integration services across the state, offices and employees across the state. We focus on larger custom-built systems. We have a philosophy we call design, build, service, because too many times it stops at design, build. Our focus as a company is very much in tune with the service aspect of not just installing the system, but also the follow-on service aspect, so that we're there when folks need us after the installation is completed. We have a variety of master procurement contracts, including GSA and DIR, TexMass, and HGAC, a number of different programs. We've completed projects across the state, large to small, thousands of cameras to, of course, just a handful, and worked with a wide variety of school districts across the state over the last, certainly last 10 years since I've been involved. So, any case, we bring quite a bit of expertise and understanding in this field, and so we want to offer that to you all today. So a quick overview of the SB 507 requirements. There's really 2 sides to this as we see it. The first one being the administrative requirements. And fundamentally, those are the things that fall on the school district, such as the policies and procedures. How do you handle a request from a parent or perhaps a faculty person? What to do with that? How to make sure they're handled in an appropriate fashion and dealt with. And notice requirements for staff or parents of students in the special needs program. But so those are some things that I'm sure you have your staff involved with from an educational standpoint. What we can speak to today is more the technical requirements, a little bit more of our field. But the way we understand the technical requirements as they're expressed in the law and in the Texas Education Code, Section 29.022, now that it's codified in law. The way we understand the technical requirements is you have to have 100% video coverage on the special ed classrooms, except of course for the restrooms or changing areas. And in those areas, you have to have audio recording. You need audio recording throughout the classroom in the changing areas. A key issue is 6 months of video storage, video and audio retention, which is not a small amount of data. If you're familiar with recording video, it consumes quite a bit of data. So that becomes a little bit of a technical challenge. We'll get into some of that. Also, restrictive access to recorded video and audio. So not just anybody can come along and look at it, even just for maintenance purposes, that sort of thing, you have to be involved. The way we read the law, you have to be involved with a formal complaint in order to access the video, and so that truly restricts the opportunity for people to even maintain the system. And so we think we have some good solutions to ensure compliance as well as make sure your system is running. And along with that, there is no live monitoring allowed, nor can you simply access the video on an ad hoc basis. One thing I will point out, Night Security Systems is not a legal counsel. We can't offer you legal advice with respect to this bill, but these are the fundamental requirements that we see as a participant in this industry. So as for the options, technical options here, we see school districts looking at it 3 different ways, and many of them looking at it all 3 ways. One is leveraging an existing enterprise system. You may have a large video system in place today at your school or for your school district and say, well, I've got cameras already, so let's just expand this system to address the requirements of the bill. And that's certainly a possibility. It may be a great fit, but there's some challenges involved with that we're going to touch on very briefly. The second one is, okay, to avoid those challenges, let's put in a entirely separate infrastructure just for SB 507. It relieves some of the compliance issues, but it also adds some additional costs and that sort of thing. The third option that we see and we really kind of like is, let's just go on a room-by-room basis. If you have 50 special education classrooms or environments, you may not need it in all 50. It's driven by requests from parents, depending upon the policy that you put in place. And so maybe you only need, out of those 50, you only need 20 or 30, but you don't really know right now. So this is a little more scalable approach that you might be able to manage some costs a little better with. So we're going to talk a little bit about each one of these and drill down on the third one. So the first one, leveraging existing video management systems. The way we view this, and I'm sure you have a view yourself, is leveraging, you can leverage your current investment. If you have a system in place, let's just expand that and take advantage of the existing system as well as the people that are currently administering the system. And so if you were simply adding security cameras, that would be the obvious choice. However, in the context of this bill, the bill is not about security as much as it is about student and faculty safety. And so there's really, as you'll see the bullet point there's a commingling of purposes and requirements within the bill that make this a little more challenging, and you would just simply need to evaluate that. Firstly, the enterprise level licenses are expensive. You certainly need to get your IT folks involved to expand your network infrastructure to each of these classrooms. That's going to be an environment-specific need. Scaling a large embedded system, takes time. So if you have 50 classrooms and you need to add 100 to 150 cameras, that's hard to respond on a timely basis because it just takes planning and so forth. I mentioned the commingling of the purposes. in one sense, your security system is for security and response. And on the SB 507 side, it's safety and compliance. So those are a little bit of can be competing, and there's really two completely different administrative processes and compliance requirements. So that's option number one. Option number two is, okay, well, let's try to avoid some of those more administrative complexities and compliance issues and put a standalone system in place. Well, it eliminates the conflict, and it helps really enforce the compliance to the letter of the law. That's all good, but it's an enterprise system. It costs money, and again, the entire infrastructure needs to be put in place. Substantial planning and procurement required. We're talking months, not weeks, in terms of the initiation to deployment, and it's difficult to know exactly how much storage and scale you need if you don't know exactly how many cameras you're going to require. And then regarding the staff to manage it, if it has to be a separate standalone system, do you have the people on board that are going to manage and administer it when you get the formal request or when you get some other information? How do you handle that? And again, back to some of the administrative pieces. And now the third option is going to be what we call an easy modular system. And the reason we say it's easy is because it's small pieces. You can do it on a per classroom basis, and this may be more appealing to some, but we've seen that the tendency has been, let's think globally on a big scale, and from what we're hearing, we think it may be a better approach to think on a classroom by classroom basis. And you may or may not agree, and that's fine. We're here for the discussion. It's easy to respond as demand requires. If you get a demand for a classroom, we can do that quickly. It's a predictable system cost, and we'll talk more about that a little bit later. You can do classroom level management, facilitates the access to the video, restricted access and such, and it provides tremendous relief on the network infrastructure side, so that because you only need a single network drop for the camera, if in order to answer that. So some of the challenges is getting that 6 months of video storage on a small system is challenging. Plus, if you simply just go out to the internet and find a system with whatever requirements you think will meet it, there's a lot of, let me just say, low quality options out there. And certainly that's not something that we're willing to put our name on or stand behind. And with the gravity and importance of compliance to Senate Bill 507, we want to work with school districts across Texas to make sure that they're putting in a system that's going to fulfill the requirements and intent of Senate Bill 507. So those are the three options, and because we like this third option, we think it's maybe an underappreciated approach. We wanted to put that out there today on our webinar. And so to get into that piece more in a little more detail, I'm going to turn it over to Scott Bradford, and Scott will step through some of the details of what this looks like, and then at the end we can wrap it up with your questions.
Hello everyone, this is Scott Bradford, a system designer for Night Security. And what you see here is a typical classroom layout with what we refer to as an internal bathroom or changing room. So in a common scenario, we would have two cameras that are wide angle to sort of watch, to get full coverage of the inside of the classroom, a microphone in the center of the classroom, and then you have to have the external microphone in the restroom. So we have two cameras and two microphones in sort of a typical layout. So the design that we have come up with uses a device from Axis known as the F44. And we'll get into that a little bit deeper in just a moment, but we have two Axis video imagers. They are not standalone cameras. Two microphones from Sony going back to this Axis Video Hub, And then that video hub has one network connection that goes back to a new product called the Axis Companion Recorder. That is an NVR that is completely self-contained, has its own hard drive and its own power supply. And so this becomes a closed system. We have a bubble over here that shows an outbound network connection to your ISD's network. That is optional. Since this system is a closed loop, you could put this in a portable building or in an older classroom that doesn't necessarily have a data drop to the greater ISD campus's network infrastructure, and it will operate just fine. So the two main pieces, as I mentioned, is the Axis F44, we're calling it a video hub. It allows for the connection of 4 sensor inputs. It looks a lot like a network switch, but it isn't. So you have the ability to connect 4 imager heads. And more importantly, the newer version of the F44 has 2 microphone inputs. So this will cover the microphone input for the classroom and the secondary microphone input that's required for the bathroom or the changing room. This switch, or this video hub, does provide PoE power out to each of the camera imager heads and to the microphones. And also, since it allows up to 4 connections, if you have an oddly shaped classroom, an L-shaped classroom, or just a classroom that's very large, you could connect up to 4 imager heads to this without having to run an additional network drop from this back to the NVR. There's a ceiling mount bracket available where you can mount this F44 in a drop ceiling tile grid for protection and for ease of installation. And it uses Axis's ZipStream technology, which plays into the storage that we'll talk about in just a moment, that is very critical to 507 because of the 6-month of retention time. The imager that we're using is over to the right. It's called the F4005E. It is a 1080p resolution imager with 110-degree field of view. It does have wide dynamics video technology, so if you have a classroom with windows with dynamic lighting changes, it will compensate for that. It's low profile and vandal resistant, so it should be able to, handle lightweight abuse or spitballs or whatever. And there's a 40-foot attached cable. It is not an RJ45, it's a 6-pin, but that can be extended if necessary through couplers. This is the microphone that we're using. I'm using a Sony microphone that will attach to the Axis F44 just fine. It has selectable sensitivity levels for small classrooms or large classrooms. And most importantly, it has this low pass cutoff filter that blocks out the air conditioning droning noise that a lot of microphones pick up sometimes. It's got mountable mounting options. There's a surface mount option, so if you have an older classroom with a hard deck ceiling that's not drop tile, you can still mount it. And there's a 10-foot cord that comes out of it, which also can be extended very easily and inexpensively. So this is really kind of the base of the system, which is the Axis Companion NVR. So this is a self-contained NVR with a 4 terabyte hard drive, but it also has an 8-port PoE switch built into the unit. So you have one network connection that goes from this unit to the F44 video hub, and from the video hub, power is sent out to your video imagers and to your microphones. There are no licenses required for the F44 or other Axis cameras. This NVR has up to 16 licenses built into it, so there's no additional license fees that you need to worry about. And based on some very extensive testing that I've done here in our office, based on 15 frames per second and a scheduled record from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m., the 4 terabytes should be more than adequate to retain 6 months worth of storage for 2 cameras and potentially for 3 if you have an L-shaped classroom that might need an additional imager. The ZipStream compression software, compression algorithm that they're using now has really been fantastic about limiting unnecessary bandwidth and storage. And so we feel confident that you'll be able to meet the retention time with this 4 terabyte device.
Sure. And I'll take from an installation standpoint, this is Chris Hugman again. All of one of the beauties of this is all the installations, they're localized to the classroom area. I mean, we might need to take a network drop down the hall to your network closet, but it's all localized there. The procurement time is greatly compressed in that, you know, for a basic, you know, couple classroom program, you know, it's 3-4 week kind of lead time before we get it turned around and installed. Now, you know, if there's a large volume of quantity, we would need to plan for that. And of course, if there's you know, equipment availability due to whatever supply chain issues. But we think it's a 3 to 4 week kind of program. Install time, we think is under 1 day for a couple of techs that we can come out and do that. And it can be installed without the network drop. So we can get this installed without being dependent upon network connectivity, network configuration, and it will be up and working and recording very, very quickly. Based on the configuration that we've laid out there, and I would add to that we're proposing the F44 imager because of its flexibility, zip stream, and cost. You can also use IP cameras with microphone inputs, and you know, so we can discuss if those are important options to you. But in total, it's less, and in some cases much less than $5,000 per classroom. We simply offer that as a means for, you know, schools to maybe budget. Maybe there's a budget dollar that you could apply on a per classroom basis. That includes equipment installation, configuration, and training. So not only is equipment, but it would include, say, night security installing the system for you. 1 year on-site labor warranty. So if there's ever a problem, we're going to come out to your site and fix it. All of this equipment has a 3-year equipment warranty. So, you know, Axis is a solid brand. They've been around quite a long time and have a great reputation and produce a very quality product. And importantly, it's all available on DIR. So it makes the procurement process much easier, and we can fulfill it much more quickly. So from an installation standpoint, that gives you an idea of what's involved there. So now once it's installed, you need to think about who's going to be responsible for the system. The big issue is because SB 507 limits access to the viewing of video, how do you know that the cameras are working? As a service provider in this market, the most common issue that we see is people don't recognize that cameras may not be recording for whatever reason until they have an incident and they go back to review the video. And of course, that's exactly the wrong time to view it. And so we have a solution to that, and it fits very well in the context of compliance of SB 507. So I'll talk about that in a minute. And you know, in that regard, what's the risk of not having the video? What if you had a request for that and it wasn't there? Of course, that would be a bad situation for everyone involved. And so what Night Security has come up with, and we've been offering this program for 5 years now or more, is we have an exclusive and patented program for system health monitoring. We call it SecurePlan Health. And what SecurePlan Health does is it detects components, it monitors components behind the scenes to see if the camera is offline or online, to see if your recorders are connected. Are there other underlying issues? Maybe a hard drive has errors and is about to fail, or maybe there's other issues. And we've had great success with the clients that we've been monitoring in detecting issues early and avoiding system outages. It's been very, very successful. So it has our client support center here in Austin. We have a team of client support center technicians that are available to receive calls to provide support for users as well as technical support. The system itself will detect the cameras going offline or not recording. And we can also determine if it's not meeting the 6 months recording objective. You know, the cost on this is we put together a package here again for this is just to monitor the classrooms is about $18 per classroom, and that includes the recorder and the cameras and the entire setup. And there is an optional on-site program where we would come out, it would include on-site, but the $18 is only just for the monitoring piece. And we'll call you and say, hey, we have this issue, maybe you fix it, or maybe we send out a technician to help take care of it. So we think SecurePlan Health is a great option to help verify that the video is being recorded and remain compliant with the restricted viewing requirements. Now, our on-site program, we simply call SecurePlan. And if you've been around night security anytime at all, you've heard about SecurePlan. And it is a very comprehensive program where we guarantee if you call us by noon, we are there the same day. And that's anywhere in the state of Texas. It includes all the labor and travel costs. We also have equipment on our shelf that we can replace any defective components. So it minimizes downtime. And in this situation, that is, of course, very, very important. It includes the software upgrades, license fees. We do annual tests in system maintenance, so we'll come out and clean the cameras and make sure, say, for instance, the audio is recording with reasonable quality, that sort of thing. And it includes, embedded within this program, also includes our SecurePlan Health that I mentioned earlier. And so here again, for SB 507, we've come up with a kind of a package offer here of $100 per month for a school, for example, and then $75 for each classroom that would be covered. So if you have 10 classrooms, you can, you know, $850 is the total on a monthly basis. And so that gives you the peace of mind that you don't have to worry about maintaining the system, but that you've got someone backing you up that's certainly qualified to do that. If you feel the need to have round-the-clock support, I don't know that it would apply in this case, then of course we also have an option for SecurePlan 24. So that gives you a general sense of how we're looking at the SB 507 requirements. We would love to be able to help you as school districts in Texas serving the students and the families that you serve to help you be compliant with this. And of course, we want to help and engage in whatever conversations that you feel would be appropriate. So, but now we have a chance for questions. And if you have a question or concern about anything you've heard today, we'd love to take that right now. Oh, and by the way, if you could just type, we're not planning on opening up the mics, but if you could type in your questions, that way we can respond to them over the air. So
there's a Q&A tab at the top of your webinar window that will allow you to interact and ask questions if you wish.
So we have a question here that says, how many terabytes is the system expandable to? And I'm going to let Scott address that.
So this particular system, the Axis Camera Companion NVR, is fixed. It comes in two sizes, a 2 terabyte and a 4 terabyte, and that is the largest that it will go. Based on my testing, the 4 terabyte is the better option to meet the duration requirement, but it will not go beyond that. Axis does not make that in a larger version right now. If you'd like to have more storage, then we need to look at building a custom server solution for you.
So to that point, one of the analysis that we've performed here is not only have we tested all of these components and run it through its paces and in determining and making this recommendation, but considering the RAID, for instance, RAID configurable, it's also not a RAID configure. But if you put in the system SecurePlan Health monitoring, we can determine the health of the system and detect those issues very quickly, and it's actually far more cost effective than going to a custom built or kind of a higher end recording platform. So here again, we're simply trying to make sure the cost is
A trade-off.
controlled, because unfortunately this bill didn't come with any funding, as I'm sure you are keenly aware. So another question here is, do the cameras or the setup have edge recording? In other words, can the recording be not just on the recorder, but at the imager, or in this case, the F-44? Scott?
Yes, technically the F-44 does have 2 SD card slots. That little black box, the video hub, does allow for you to install 2 64 gig SD cards for a total of 128 gigs. I know that there are larger SD cards than that available, but the unit does not detect anything greater than 64 gigabytes. So yes, you can record on the edge, but if you take the record duration needed, the storage requirements, and you extrapolate that outwards, that 128 gigs is not enough to hit the 180 days or 120 school days required by the bill. So yes, they do have edge recording, but we needed more storage to meet the 6-month record requirement.
So another question, if we are setting up a centralized recording, what VMS software is compatible with the system?
So the F-44 is a normal axis camera system. It's not proprietary. So any VMS, Genetech, Video Insight, Milestone, any of the typical VMSs should be, if they support the Axis F-44, which has been around for a little while, there shouldn't be any compatibility issues for centralized recording. I will make a note that the ZipStream technology for the compression is in the camera, it is in the video hub, and so you will get most of the benefits of the compression technology with other VMSs, but based on some recent training that I had, it tends to work better with an Axis VMS, but you will see most of the gains of ZipStream if you use a non-Axis VMS.
Great questions. So another question here is, do we know for sure which VMSs will work? And we can certainly, we can certainly provide some information on that, or provide, depending upon, of course, the question is which, would want to know which VMS systems that you're interested in, and we can confirm against those. Maybe it's an embedded system that you're contemplating. That would be probably the best way to go, is just confirm on a given or a couple of different systems that this is compatible. So, okay, I think we've, what's that? Let's see, another question is, will Dallas win the Super Bowl this year? I'll defer that to Scott, but.
I'm going to take a pass on that one.
Everyone, thanks for, of course, the bigger question around here has to do with the Longhorns, but nonetheless. Thank you to everyone for your participation today, and we hope that this was helpful. And if you would like to contact us for additional inquiries, if you know your account manager, please reach out to them. If you're not sure who to contact, probably the easiest way is go to our website at knightsecurity.com and you can fill out a contact us, or I'll give you a phone number. And that phone number is 800-642-1632. And you call that and tell them that you were on the webinar today and that you would, where you're located, and you'd like to talk to someone regarding the SB 507 program. And we can certainly get you that. Oh, here's another question. So it says, for schools or districts that may have several SB 507 classrooms, does it make more sense to have one dedicated server with higher storage and capacity, or have one of these systems installed per classroom? That's a great question, and that's it really would depend on the environment that you're in and some of the infrastructure. I would invite you to have a conversation. And in some cases, we're aware of some schools that have determined, if I have 20 special education classrooms, I'm going to go ahead and do all 20. Versus there's others that say, well, I'm going to do this as I'm required to do this. So that the answer to your question may depend on that, if you will, philosophical approach to having this. So another good question there.
We're going to have a recording of this on the Night Security Systems YouTube page, and we're going to email it out to all the attendees and registrants. So you can share it with your friends, share it with your coworkers, and anyone who wants more information on SB 507. Thanks, everyone.
Goodbye.